You are listening to the People Centric Podcast, where we talk through the toughest challenges that people face at work and give practical advice to fixing those challenges. Thanks for joining our movement to create workplaces that are happier, healthier, aligned, and empowered by putting people at the center of all that we do.
Hey, People Centric leaders. This is Stephanie Anderson, and welcome back to another episode of the People Centric Podcast. Today, we've got what might feel like a relevant topic for some of you, and it's been a discussion among our team recently is we are tired. Who else is tired right now? I feel like, when you hang up, thank you, Diana. We're all tired. And I don't know about all of you, but I feel like as I am talking to more people, and this could be clients or our team or just friends and family members, everyone is just talking about how tired and exhausted they are. And so we thought we'd do a really uplifting topic and talk about this. Just kidding. I hope this will be helpful, but really, we wanted to think about today, what do you do when work does feel really, really hard? And I think a lot of people are just in this season right now. There's this feeling of malaise a little bit in the world. People just don't know what's coming. And is there going to be a recession and what's happening in the government? Plus everything that's happening in your personal life and in your job and with your family and your community and your friends. And so what do you do maybe when you're in that season and work just feels really hard and you're maybe not feeling the spark that you did in the past? And how do you overcome that? So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. So you've already heard Diana. So Diana, do you feel tired?
Most days. Yes. Yeah. I will also say our job working with clients is a hard job because everyone feels like very personally tied to their work, whether you want to believe it or not. You put in a bunch of time and energy and effort here. And so people are very emotionally tied to work. It's never, that phrase, it's just business. It's not, it's very personal. And so when I spend days and days talking and coaching and listening to people, and they're all like, oh, everything is so hard. Technology is weird. And tariffs are making our business crazy, or we've lost funding, or we're being asked to do more with less. Inflation is causing everything to go up and our profits are down. And, it's tiring and it feels heavy. And there's a burden on everyone's shoulders right now, it feels like.
Yeah. We also have Philip. Philip, how are you?
We're all wearing dark colors right now. It's the perfect wardrobe for those who can't see us. Black, and gray. And perfect apparel for a podcast episode where we talk about tired and sadness. And I appreciate our team. We were talking about this to Diana's point. We do have a lot of hard work, and I think part of what our work is when we come across people. I say oftentimes what we experience is like a concentrated version of their frustration or their hopes or their fears, because how often on your own team do you get to just talk about what you're strategically excited for, or the thing that's blowing your mind up with frustrations, or the process you need to change, and the hows and the whys. So I do think we have a pulse on all of our industries are feeling this. Healthcare, small businesses, publishing, manufacturing, everyone in the world is feeling this, right? And so I think one of the things I have started doing lately, because there's a lot of lift. Not a lot of us know where this will go. There is a lot beyond our control. I heard this quote lately of just make winning small, then make a win that you can do. So whether that's my task management of just I'll make my written post-it for the day, my 5 things. Get that done. And then even at home, I'm we live in the great outdoors here in the Ozarks. So my goal is to bike or paddleboard at least 3 times a week. That doesn't solve the world problems, but it does get me out of the office, out of my house. and to like go and experience things with friends too. So how am I? I'm actually doing quite well. I could be wearing a multicolored shirt right now. But the last 2 months have felt blacker and grayer for me, I think, and a lot of people. So I'm excited to talk through this with all of you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate that perspective. I think you're absolutely right. Like we have to find those little glimmers, and I think it leads us into something we talked about in preparation for this episode was, everybody's heard the quote like do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And we did do a podcast episode about this recently if you want to catch that one of like work myths. And so I thought it was funny as we were talking about doing this topic, I looked that up because there's an artist who I really like. His name is Adam Kurtz, and he did a rewrite of this. So instead of do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, his says, do what you love and you'll work super hard all the time with no separation or any boundaries and also take everything extremely personally, right? Which is a joke, but we've
No,
all felt
it's not
that.
funny.
It's funny on the day you're not feeling it, and then it's not funny on the day you are feeling that. And I think this is something that our team does a good job of talking about regularly is like we all really, really love what we do. And we love people centric. We love our team. That does not mean that every day feels like sunshine and rainbows. There's definitely days it feels like work. And I think at least for me, I hear that from people sometimes is like they're going through a season where work really does feel like work. And then they start questioning like, should I quit my job? Should I do something different? Like what if I feel like I'm not able to maintain some of that separation and boundaries and or everything feels really personal? What do I do? Should I just jump ship and do I just have to suffer through this?
Man, you guys know, I've been at People Centric for 12 years now, maybe something like that. And there have been seasons, not just days or weeks, like full-blown seasons where every day felt like work. And when I had those seasons, I had to take a step back and think like, okay, do I want to be here and why? What is the benefits of me being here? And what are the cons of being here, right? Like there's pros and cons to everything. So what are the pros and what are the cons? And a lot of times I would just step back and say, okay, do I still believe in what we're doing? Am I still passionate about this mission? Yes. Every time it was like, yes, I still believe in what we're doing. And then there were things like, am I growing personally? Am I fulfilling the things that I need to fulfill within a job? And while, sometimes I was not growing as much as others, I still felt like I was being challenged. Like there were things I could figure out, like there was a path for me, so it was sort of what do I need from a job? And am I still getting that? And if the answer was more yeses than nos, I chalked that up as like, okay, this is just a season. And then I also did try to say, is this a season or is this permanent? Like, is this a thing that I'm going to have to deal with forever? Or is this something I can get out of, dig myself out of, or work myself out of, or whatever? So, yeah, I just started asking myself a lot of questions about who I am and what I need and what the company is and where we were at. And I think it reframes your brain a little bit every time you ask those questions of yourself.
Yeah, I love that framework that you just laid out for thinking about this of like, and maybe just to say another quote of like, sometimes it's just remembering it's a bad day, not a bad life, or sometimes it's a bad week and not a bad job. And I mean, there definitely are moments, like I'll say, like, I've had a moment in my career where I sat down and asked myself those questions and I realized like, oh, like, I don't know that I really connect with this mission anymore because either something in me has changed or something in the business has changed or something in the world has changed. Or maybe I start weighing, a little bit of those benefits to pain. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'm just feeling more pain on a consistent basis. But to say all of that, that's probably been like 5% of my career. And then I have the other 95% where I do just have to look at it and ask myself some of the questions that you did, Diana. and just acknowledge like, yeah, it's just, I think this is a hard moment or this is a hard season. And yeah, I'm going to keep checking in with myself on that. But usually those things pass. Usually something else changes that changes either how I feel or changes something in the business. So yeah, I think that's good advice for anybody who's maybe feeling this way right now is like step one, just like ask yourself some good questions. Don't get caught in the catastrophe or the emotion of it all and really think through these things. Take a step back and if you're not able to do that right now, like do you have a trusted friend in your life who you could say like, "Hey, I want you to like ask me some of these questions because maybe I can't see it super clearly right now. Maybe I am really feeling it. Maybe I am taking a lot of it personally and I need a little distance to be able to see like, oh, maybe it isn't all about me or maybe there are just these things that are out of everyone's control. And have I asked anybody else on my team if they feel this way? Not to create like icky solidarity of like, yeah, let's all burn this place to the ground. Don't do that. But maybe just be like, yeah, like I'm feeling this way too. And I think it's because X, Y, and Z is happening in our organization right now. I think another thing that's good to do if you're feeling that way is just to like ask questions of your leaders and your team and the people around you. I think when we start feeling weary and tired, your brain is not functioning at its optimal levels. And so you're not thinking strategically as much as you might. You might not be able to think as much into the future as you normally would because your brain just feels like it's slogging through today. And I think it's helpful just to ask your leaders questions of like, hey, like number one, are you seeing this too? Because this feels really hard. And I bet you they are. And then just ask like, so like what things are you thinking about for our team or for our company that might help us through this? And I will say, ask that question with a lot of grace. If you're not willing to give a lot of grace, then don't ask the question because your leader might say, like, I don't know, or I'm also trying to figure that out. What ideas do you have? But I think it's okay to ask some of those questions.
Yeah, I was thinking, I came across a Mark Twain quote lately. I bought a book of just Mark Twain quotes, and he says, more or less, I'm paraphrasing, but essentially, it's not what you don't know that gets you, it's what you think you know that just ain't so. And especially when there's gaps in communication, when we none of us know where the future of all these things are going, as we laid out at the start, there's some big things none of us can control, global challenges or structural challenges that are changing faster than any one person or an entire nation can keep up with, right? Let alone. But with that, to your point, Steph, how then do you just focus in with your leaders and just ask like, hey, am I operating on, are we operating under the same information? If it's changing fast, how do you find out what that is, right? I love how our team recently had some specific investments and goals we would make. Initially at the start of the year, we said by the end of this year, and we just had a meeting where it was really great. Diana and Don really candidly spoke to these are the things we're looking at and ask for feedback from the team. And these will probably be moved into next year as opposed to this year. And these are the reasons why. And it wasn't just, we know this is the ivory tower speaking. It was, here's one option, here's another, here's another. I love that our team has the trust and depth to do that. I think that's why we also say to every leader, build the well before you need it, so that when things like this happen, even if it's not one catastrophic event, it's just this, to your point, Steph, this malaise that's around. And so one question I would have for you all as well, how do you specifically, if you're a leader trying to figure out if you're feeling this yourself, you do not have all the information, but you sense your team is also in the same place. What are some really practical, simple things you can do as that malaised leader with a malaised team to help speak to that, right? You may not be able to share all the information. You may not know all the information, but how do you engage them honoring the season that you all might be in?
Hmm. That's a really good question. made me think of another quote. So apparently this is the episode of quotes. So apologies if you don't like that, and yay if you love it. But there is a quote I hear people throw around often that I have a real love-hate with, and it's leaders don't have bad days. And now Diana's making a face at me. uh,
Hey, who? I have bad days.
Yeah,
Sorry,
but
guys.
it's like this like leadership philosophy somebody came up with, this idea that I think it goes along with like leaders don't have bad days, leaders eat last, like this type of thing that really makes you into this martyr as a leader, that you have to project always just this sense of certainty and strength for your team. And it almost takes like this servant leadership model to like a really a place where like you're suffering as a result of this. And so, the heart behind that, I think the positive heart behind it is like, yeah, like as a leader, like your team is watching you and observing, and they're watching how you react to things. So be conscious of how you do that. It's a little bit of that, like, don't complain down, complain up. But the other side of that, to what you were saying, Philip, and what made me think of this was that like leaders do have bad days. And sometimes leaders are the ones feeling this way, either on their own or alongside their teams. And I'm with you. Like I really appreciated what our team has done in those moments where we're all feeling it, and we know like maybe there's some things that as leaders we would have the power to change, but really thinking through like, is that the right short-term move, and how does that impact us long-term, and bringing the team into it. So this is what I would say, like if you're a leader that's kind of having a bad day right now, or you're struggling with some of that, remembering you aren't doing this alone, and we do need each other. And yeah, I know there's probably some things that like, oh, if the team saw that, it would freak them out. But think about how you could present that in a way to help your team understand, like, hey, team, we have a problem we need to solve. And here's what I'm seeing. So no, we're not falling off the cliff actively, but like here's what I'm seeing. And you're right. Like we're all kind of feeling it, that something needs to change. We need to make some type of shift. And we could short term flip all these switches and do all of these things. But here's how that could impact us down the road. And just like share with the team what you're processing. You don't have to have the answer for it yet, but just to share with them, like, here's what I'm seeing, here's how I'm processing it. This is maybe why I haven't flipped that short-term switch that you all keep thinking about or asking for, because I'm thinking about, a year from now. What happens financially if we do that? What happens with our customers if we do that? What you're seeing in your industry if you do that, right? Like how could it just impact your team and the people that are there? So bring your team into it. You don't have to do all of this in isolation.
Yeah. And I love the point of vulnerability too, right? Like when we have these discussions, I don't think we project that we know everything. And I think that's crazy. Leaders are just people, right? They're just people who have been promoted. It doesn't mean anything. And so I think showing a little vulnerability and saying, like, here's all the things I'm thinking about. And I know you have thoughts. And here's all the things that are happening in the world. I'm tired. I can kind of tell you're tired. I see it. And just being a little vulnerable and a little open, I also think that those moments are not just moments for your team, but they're teaching moments, right? You're teaching your team what you're thinking about. And that's never a bad thing, right? It's never a bad thing to like give your people the gift of knowledge and the gift of understanding, and then allow them to question you and ask deeper questions and understand more of what's going on in the bigger picture. In bigger organizations, I've seen leaders do like hey, the boss is telling us this, right? I hate it, but that's what the boss is saying. And instead of doing that, you could be like, here's what the boss said. Here's why I think he said it. And here's where I think we should go and what we should do, and cast the vision and be like, what do you guys see? What's out there? I think if you can do your best to understand all of the factors at play, you're going to feel better about it.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I will say in the back of my mind, there is a little voice, and I'm sure someone else is thinking this as you're listening, of like, well, Diana, Philip, Stephanie, what if what I have to share is really bad news? Right? Like what you're talking about is being a little more open, being a little more vulnerable. It might mean like showing some numbers and information I have not shared the team before. And I haven't done that because it's bad. Right. And that's why I feel so crummy because I'm the one carrying around this information. Like what advice do we have for that person?
Well, we were consultants during the pandemic. So so we have seen bad conversations. And we also are in consultants in some industries that are really tough right now. So we've seen it. We've seen these tough conversations where an employer is like, I'm literally losing millions of dollars a year and I cannot keep doing it, right? Or I have to shut down an entire branch because it's just not profitable. Or we lost half of our clients in one day because the pandemic started. So I think the reality is that you can tell people hard things and they're still going to be okay because you're communicating. And you still need to allow them to ask questions. You still need to understand that they're going to be emotional and they're going to be scared and they're going to have, fears and emotions of their own. But because you're sharing, it's going to be better because they know what they're up against. I recently was with a client and they had really bad information to share. And they kind of said, I don't want to share it because it's so bad. And I said, but that means you don't trust your employees enough to help you get out of it. And I think that a lot of leaders are taking it on themselves and they're like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to do it. But if you bring it to your team, then it's not all on you. And then they see what you see and they can help you get out of it. Otherwise, they're just going to keep working business as usual because you haven't told them that it's not usual. And I think that that's a detriment to both you as a leader and to your employees because they're smart and capable and you hired them and they will help you get out of whatever's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that, but it is hard. It's hard, right? And it takes a lot of bravery to do that. So I think what I'm hearing us saying, like if you're a leader in this situation and you're feeling this way, like be more communicative with your team, bring them in to help you solve problems. Don't feel like you're isolated and have to do this alone. And then if you're kind of in more of the employee role in this situation, it is really like ask yourself some good questions and does this job still align with like your personal like goals and your personal mission and what the things that you want to do? Because yeah, then you're probably more willing to say, yeah, I'm willing to have some bad days because like big game, big picture, this still lines up with what I want. And to ask your leaders some questions, and it's okay to ask as long as you are comfortable knowing you might not get the perfect bow answer. You might not get exactly what you wanted there, but just that you can ask some questions. You can flag something if you see it. And I did really like what you said, Philip, at the beginning too, of just like find those little moments for yourself. And this could be for leaders or employees just to say like, things are really hard right now. Like there is a lot going on that collectively we're all experiencing, but then yeah, adding just your personal on top of all of that. We talk to people all day long. Like people are going through a lot right now. There's a lot of things that are happening in all of our lives that are really, really hard. And so I loved your advice, Sylvia, just like find a small moment in your day that you can just do something that just like lets you take a deep breath. I mean, and it literally could be as simple as like take 5 minutes just to like sit and close your eyes and breathe, or like make yourself a cup of tea, make that coffee, make the toast, whatever, just a little snack that feels nice for you. I know a lot of people really enjoy exercise, and so if you can find time to do that in your day, but just finding that one small moment just to like literally breathe, give yourself some space, I think we get really busy in our culture and we convince ourselves we don't have time for those type of things. I'm like, well, do you have 5 minutes? Do 5 minutes? And you can even set a timer if you really believe you have no time, so you don't spend more than 5 minutes on it. But just like, do you have 5 minutes just to like take a breath today and like be grateful, like you're here.
Yeah.
And that's really, really important.
And I know we're like business consultants and we love work, but also recognize that like most of the things you're doing are not life and death. You know, some healthcare people might be like, no, it is. But for the most part, this is not life or death. And you are not your job. You're not. You have way other things that are more important than the job you are currently doing. And remember that you can take a step out of it and just find the other fulfilling things if this is not the season for work being fulfilling, which it happens, you know?
Yeah, it happens. And I think it's also being honest with your employer. Like, it doesn't mean you just have to quit your job today, right? It might mean you go to your boss or manager, leader, and just admit that you're struggling and say, like, hey, like, I am struggling right now. And I'm just acknowledging and want to hear from you. Like, I don't know that I'm going to be quite as productive as I normally am in this season, and have the conversation with them to say, like, okay, yeah, like, where maybe can we create some space where, like, yeah, if that doesn't get done this week, that's okay, we could do it later. And what are the things that have to get done right now, so I know what I need to focus on, and maybe can we move some things off my plate or delegate to someone else or push that deadline back just a little bit, just to accommodate for the reality that, like, if you really are feeling this way, like, you're probably not going to be as productive and efficient in your job as you normally would be. And just accepting that and being honest with the people around you. Just be like, hey, like, I just think I need a little space. Like, I'll be honest, I did this with our team recently. Like, hey, I'm going to block some spots in my calendar for no meetings, where I need to create a little more space in my day. We do a lot of meetings and a lot of calls. And I'm like, I'm feeling a little of that mental fatigue. And when I'm switching, and then you do 3 different clients and 3 different meetings in a row. So I'm going to start blocking my calendar for some of those spots. And I may not do that forever, but right now that's what I feel like I need, is like literally some time to just to breathe and take a moment in between meetings and process. And yeah, I could be working during that time and catching up on notes, or I might just be like, yeah, but I just need to like sit at my desk for a little bit and just like let my brain calm down. And 15 people just said 100 different things to me, and I just need a minute to like collect my thoughts, think about what I want to do next.
I love your example, Stephanie. And similar, there was a workshop Don and I were supposed to do together recently. The day before, I realized, just reviewing notes, there's not that many people there. I don't know if they need both of us. And I have 20,000 things to do. So as much as I truly, truly love doing a workshop with Don Harkey or anyone on our team, I reached out and I just said, hey, I don't think you need me. I'm going to do this other thing, but let me know if you need me, instead of just, hey, boss, do you need me? Instead of saying the whole thing, I was like, here are these other 3 projects that we're getting done by the end of next week. So I'm going to work on those. If you need me, though, let me know. And boom, I'll jump in. We'll make it work. And of course, it was easy. And after the workshop, Don came back. He was like, actually, it's great you said that, because we did not need all that staff time, right? It would have overloaded. It wasn't that many people in the room. So good call. Good job. And I think sometimes it's as simple as that. If you're feeling this on the team, I love your example, Stephanie. Just ask. And Diana, I was on mute, of course, but when you were talking, especially about how a leader can share hard things and hard problems with a team, I was just like amening the whole time, right? Like, amen, amen. Because that is probably one of the best marks of good leadership. It's hard to be a good leader when things are great, right? That's really hard to keep good momentum, to keep a healthy culture. It's hard to be a leader when things are just kind of middle ground, and it's hard to be a leader when things are hard. That's the sucky part of being a leader. It's just a tough job. A lot of people can do it. You're not the only one. But what I love, our call, is very few people do it well. That doesn't mean you avoid the awkward. It doesn't mean you avoid the rough stuff. But can you do it well? What does leading well in the middle of malaise look like? What does leading well look like when you don't have all the answers and you don't have enough resources and you're afraid to be vulnerable with your team because that might make you look weak or that might scare your team? Those are good questions to ask. And someone I coached recently said a good leader is constantly finding themselves in uncomfortable situations. And my question back was, oh, wow, that's such a powerful way to grow. How have you been uncomfortable the last month? Their response was, I haven't. That was like the smart thing to say in coaching. That wasn't the real thing they were experiencing. And so the good news, if you're uncomfortable, all the things I think we've shared can really speak to that. But the powerful truth, if you're more than your job, that's terrifying and exciting. And I think the longer I work here, all of us, the more I specifically have seen so many people who are so wrapped up in their job. And when the day or the hour comes that they're transitioning or that they're retiring, they're riding off into the sunset ride is more terrifying than anything they experienced before because they didn't put the work in to become a whole person before they had to, And so if your one goal is that, like, help your team do the same thing, like, it's all very important, but civilization has made it this far. We'll keep doing it. So be smart and lead well on the way.
Oh, that was great. Yeah. So I think we'll land it there. I hope this has been helpful. And if you're feeling this way, I hope it has given you some helpful tips. The one thing I will add to the end of this is just a mental health thought of like, what we talked about today is different than depression. And so if you feel that, if you're feeling more of the depression feelings, or this is a consistent thing in your life, please reach out for support or help. There are mental health professionals out there who would love to work with you and talk about that. And if you need a good referral, like, we can send one your way if you reach out to us. But can highly recommend like even some of the online therapies, but just wanted to throw that out there too, that if you really, really are struggling in a different way than what we talked about today, you are not alone and there's a lot of support out there. But maybe for those of us that are just feeling a little bit of that blech right now, I hope this episode was really helpful for you. And if you have other ideas or thoughts for us, be sure to listen to the outro for how to get a hold of us. And we will see you back here soon. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the People Centric Podcast. We are so grateful for you joining us every week. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Also, feel free to share on your social media with everyone that you know. It really does help us. If you would like to contact us, I have put our information in the show notes. Please reach out anytime. We love hearing from you. We will be back next week with a new topic. Until then, be well and lead well.